What's the most awkward accidental physical contact you've had with the opposite sex? I went to high school with my cousin. We were at a high school dance or some sort of event and I spotted my cousin across the gymnasium. I snuck up behind her, picked her up around the waist and ran across the gym with her just to shake things up a little bit. After I put her down I realized she was not my cousin and I did not know her. You legit kidnapped someone. Getting on a school bus, tripping on the final step and falling face first into the bus driver's crotch. He laughed. I laughed. Other kids laughed. And I died a bit inside. At a party I snuck up behind my wife, wrapped my arms around her, kissing her neck and grabbing her boobs. Was at the doctor's office, being examined by a cute resident about my age who was clearly nervous about physical contact. She kept asking consent for anything involving contact, including things like taking my pulse and using a stethoscope. Then at one point, as I'm sitting on the table with my hand on the corner, she leans over toward me to check my ear, and her crotch is resting on my hand, as in my knuckle is fully in her camel toe. I didn't move or say anything in order to avoid making things more awkward, and pretended not to notice. I think she was pretending not to notice too. Worked in a restaurant and had a super bitchy manager. One night, she slipped on a greasy floor and would have fallen down 25 metal steps, but I was able to reach out and grab her, possibly saving her life and definitely saving her from broken bones. She thanked me and laughed. My hands were squeezing both of her breasts and holding on like both our lives depended on it. She was a lot nicer to work with after that. I have the mental image of some guy holding an elderly woman by her saggy breasts while she is dangling over the edge of a staircase. I was walking through a hallway at work. A guy and girl I've never met were talking. As I got closer, the guy held out his arms in a "come on through" motion. But instead, I hugged him. Afterward, I didn't know what to do, so I just kept walking. I've never seen that guy again. Edit. Moved an unnecessary word. Edit 2. This edit is a little late, as I was sleeping. But thank you for taking my gold virginity, kind stranger. Walking through a haunted house on a field trip in high school and one of my cute classmates, who I barely knew, freaked out and jumped into my arms. I was startled but caught her and also caught a handful of boob. Now I was the freaked one, but she was so scared I tried to let her go, but she hung on to me like a sloth the rest of the way through. I put her down at the end, gave her a nod and stumbled away. Missed your chance. You put her down? Jesus, she was just scared. You didn't have to kill her. Could have been put on a farm far away or something. Edited. We were going down a large water slide into the pool. I went first and she came too quickly, landing with her legs wrapped around my neck, forcing my head to go underwater. It's rare for the woman to come too quickly, but this does sound like standard practice when she does. I was 12, maybe 13, at Crush's house, crushing hard. She had a basketball hoop and asked if I play. Devilish grin creeps onto my face. Instantly took up guard. She fakes left, runs right. She's too slow. Puts up shot in front of me like I'm some kinda bitch. FCK that. I swat the ball like a recruiter. My mother and Jesus was there watching. She tries holding onto ball. Big mistake. She falls hard. I fall on top of her. Harder. Bruised her rib. Bloody knees and elbows. She doesn't talk to me all the way up till senior year and tells every girl in school. Still undefeated. One ball is life. Edit. Practicing judo as 13-year-old boy. Practicing with some girl who must have been 17. She had me in some hold I couldn't name or really demonstrate. It's been a while. As an attempt to get out of the hold, I put my arm on her lower leg and pushed. My hand slipped and I pelted my fingers into her crotch quite aggressively. I've never seen someone more angrily say "I beg your pardon." Eating lunch with co-workers at Twin Peaks. Cute waitress gets high fives from all of us for some reason. Just as I go in for mine, someone calls her name, and she turns her head, shoulders, and lowers her hand. There was no time to stop. I was already in the motion. I high-fived her right in the boob, in front of my boss and co-workers. The look she gave me. She knew it was an accident, but that still didn't make it any less awkward for her and I the rest of the meal. Oh, that's easy. Went to see a friend's play. That coincidentally had her getting naked on stage, which was a complete surprise to me, though I wasn't complaining. I went to congratulate her after the show, went in for a hug and accidentally got like a full-on handful of boob. And neither of us said anything and acted like it didn't happen. Like you do. I was mortified though. I'm sure this has happened to some people on here, but I was in a store, snuck up on my girlfriend's sister and hit her with a boat paddle as petty revenge for hitting me with a broom earlier. Right on her butt. We were young and dumb. As I muttered something clever like, "How do you like them apples?" She turned around and it turned out to be a lady in her 40s wearing the same jeans pink shirt combo. I apologized thoroughly and explained myself, and she was okay with it only because I basically told her she looked like a teenager from the back. In so many words. And no, my girlfriend and her sister just watched it all and offered no help or confirmation of the same outfit from behind another aisle. I am sure this has happened to some people on here. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but yeah, I've hit your girlfriend's sister on the butt with a boat paddle loads of times. A woman getting up to leave the tram fell on my lap when the driver decided to drive another meter towards the station. Edit. Well, I'm loaded with things to say the next time this happens. Thanks. Saying goodbye to a friend of mine after they graduated. Went in for a hug but our faces went in the same way and we kissed. Then tried to do it again and faces went the same way that time too. We kept fumbling before getting it right and having a normal friendly hug. I think we were both too stubborn to give up, but it only made it worse. We had and would continue to have zero attraction to each other. In high school, awkward me had a huge boner while I was talking to a friend of mine. She went to give me a goodbye hug and my dick just speared her in the vagina area. You must have been wearing some very loose pants for that. In high school, there was a girl who I had a crush on. I'm pretty sure the crush was mutual and we were doing that thing where we were hanging out a lot and talking a lot, but no one was making a move. Anyway, we went to a restaurant with a group of friends and she was sitting next to me. All of a sudden she was leaning over so her head was almost in my lap. I just kinda froze and thought she was doing some weird gesture of affection. She suddenly said, "Could you move?" I dropped something. I said, "Oh," and then she said, "Oh." You thought? Brief awkwardness where I worried I thought she was going for a BJ in the middle of a restaurant. Anyway, we're still good friends. Edit. This was a long time ago. We're both married to other people and stay in touch, so whether the crush was mutual, etc. is irrelevant at this point. I've told this story on Reddit before, but hey, it's so applicable to this question. I was walking through the city in August, the peak of business. The population more than doubles and the pavements are absolutely packed with tourists. I'm only 4 feet 0 tall, I have dwarfism, and I have the advantage of being able to weave through you lanky ass giants. So I was dodging and diving at quite a pace compared to everyone else. I noticed a woman ahead of me in the crowd, talking on her phone. She was very tall and also in 6 heels. I took a millisecond to admire her amazing figure in her tight-fitting dress before I tried to dodge past her, but she sidestepped in the same direction and stopped in her tracks completely, reacting to the conversation on the phone, I'm assuming. I face planted right into her ass with some force. She whirled around and screamed at me in horror, a reasonable reaction I think. I felt my face flush red. Mortified, I blurted out a sorry and swiftly darted away into the crowd again before she could do any more. Like slap me. I was walking with my boss and we were chatting away. We were on a street and I moved slightly behind him to allow someone to pass going the opposite direction. I didn't move immediately then next to him for some reason, and as he turned out to speak to me, He swung his hands. He swung his hands straight into my crotch. He fanny slapped me basically. I don't know who laughed harder. Me or the guy walking past at the time who witnessed the whole thing. Playing a game called Ninja where you try to slap each other's hands. Accidentally slapped a friend right on the boob. That was about 8 years ago. And last month we celebrated our 3rd year dating. So I guess it paid off. Was on an unusually crowded subway. Backed up against one of the partition walls. Hot girl squeezes in at the next stop. And full on backs her yoga panted butt right into my crotch. I had nowhere to go. Couldn't decide whether I should say something or not. Also couldn't decide whether it'd be ruder to have a boner or not. My stop was only 3 stops away, but those were the most pleasant 3 stops I've ever had on a subway. I believe this counts as losing your virginity. While fooling around with my soon-to-be wife, I tried to passionately throw her onto her back. She was on top. I misjudged the width of the bed and absolutely power-bombed her head into the nightstand. Was playing outfielder in a kickball game. Someone kicked a pop fly in between myself and a female outfielder. I'm a 6 foot tall, 200 pound male. We were running full speed at each other, but somehow I was able to make the catch and avoid ramming into her. I decided to give her a playful slap on the shoulder and say, "Wow, close one right." Full stop. Right as I extended my arm, she turned and I hit her right in the breast. Not a huge deal, but definitely awkward. Neither of us acknowledged it. Accidentally elbowed a girl in the jaw during foreplay. Was trying to pull my hand out from between us. And it slipped and her face was at the perfect angle. Killed her too. I was on the tube once. When this attractive woman was moving towards the exits to get off at the next stop. When the train suddenly lurched to a stop. She lost her balance. And I reached out to stop her falling into me. Unfortunately, this involved me accidentally grabbing her breast. I said it before and I'll say it again. I accidentally hit my wife in the head during sex. It was an accident, but I hit her hard. She rubbed her forehead for a while. Then stared at me in complete silence. No sex for me that night. Are you FCKing sorry? Yeah. You like that? You fkin retarded? Senior trip in high school. Seated next to my crush on the bus. We'd already been up all night and were on our way to destination number 2 when I fell asleep. I woke up when we got there only to discover that I'd awoken with raging 17-year-old morning wood. Worse, I was wearing loose-fitting surfer shorts. So there was no concealing what was going on. Worse. She got up to get off the bus in front of me. Meaning I would be standing right behind her in close proximity. So there I am. Standing a couple of inches behind my high school crush. With a very prominent erection completely uninhibited by any form of restrictive clothing, inignorably thwacking against her behind. Trying to act casual as we file off the bus. We'd already been up all night. Semicolon. Close bracket. In seriousness though, the tuck it up under your waistband technique would have worked well here. We were drunk and getting ready for bed. I was watching a video on my phone and laughing. And my friend's girlfriend came over to watch. She had no pants on, just underwear, and she kind of sat half laid down onto the couch with me. Friend was not the type to care and this was fairly normal for us. This got me a bit worked up because I was drunk and she was stunningly gorgeous. And she got up though. She lost her balance and fell backward. Literally right onto my penis. I felt it stabbing her butt. It hurt. Her eyes widened and she just stammered out a sorry and rushed off. I just couldn't believe how cartoonish it was. Literally almost had accidental sex. My first year wrestling, I was top in a starter position, basically doggy style, with my team captain, a male. On the whistle I lost my coordination and grabbed a whole handful of dick and balls, eliciting a tea kettle like sound from the poor guy. As the only female on the team, I did not live that down for the whole season. Just yesterday we were doing a group photo for an intern whose last day is today. It was just the 4 people sit by him. The office hot MILF spilt something on her blouse and there was a big wet spot on the boob region of her shirt. She said, "I'll have to stand like this to hide it." She turned sideways and pushed her boob into my arm. It was a good day. Kicked my ex in the vagina while changing positions during sex in the dark. The ol' CNT punt. Oh boy, as a mandatory subject we took swimming and pay for about a semester's time in high school with an entire class stuck in a very tiny, cramped pool. Oh god. Fell asleep on the subway in Tokyo. Woke up squeezing an elderly Japanese woman's shoulder. I was sitting in a bus by the aisle, talking to the person on the seat in front of me and gesticulating a lot. Girl wearing a sundress walks by me right as I move my aisle side hand upwards, catching the dress and lifting it way up. So, technically no contact with her, but still very embarrassing. And I didn't even see what happened because I was looking forward and she was very quick to pull it back down. I did the hospitality course a few years ago, and we had to do a training weekend at a fine dining restaurant. As I was walking out of the pantry during a busy lunch service, another student and I bumped into each other. With the way her hand was swaying, it landed right as a perfect cup around my cock and balls. We both just froze for a few seconds, hand still there, processing what was happening, which only amped up the awkwardness. She let out a shocked yelp, looking absolutely aghast, and we swiftly walked on. Bonus awkward points. She was from a very conservative background in China, and I suspect that was the first time she had ever touched a penis. Oops. When I were 19, I worked at a burger joint. I was a cashier. One time when I was handed the order from a coworker, I extended my arm without looking and grabbed. It was not a bag with fries and burgers. It was one of her boobs. I turned around. Luckily both of us just laughed. That seems to me a proper happy meal. I once saw a longtime friend in the hall at school. We, of course, ran to each other like in the movies for a glorious hug. One of my female classmates was terrified standing in the middle of two 6 feet dudes running at each other. We grabbed her for the hug but I accidentally grabbed her boob. This was the day she didn't wear a bra. Similar. Was at a convention and saw an old friend I hadn't seen in years. Was a pretty affectionate group he belonged to, so we went in for a running jump hug. I need him in the balls. At velocity. UHG. I used to get pushed around a lot in high school. One time, someone pushed me from behind and I fell face first into a girl's breasts. It was actually a very soft landing, but when I looked up, she was horrified. They were neato. They were neato. For some reason this is the best thing I've seen all week. Thank you. I went shopping with my girlfriend and I'm staring at the wall of headphones in front of my just browsing and my girlfriend walks up next to me. Says, "Hey look, I found this cool thing." Can't remember what it was. I reply something like, "Nice babe." Put my arm around her and pull her close. She responds by putting her arm around me and kinda side hugs me. Turns out this girl isn't my girlfriend. We looked at each other in utter awkwardness and both say, sorry. 7th grade, was walking down the hall during a class change and a girl I ended up dating 3 years later was walking in front of me. She suddenly stopped and whirled around. I put up both hands to keep us from bumping into each other and, accidentally, I swear, they were in the exact position to, well, cup each of her breasts. In the nanosecond I was touching her, our eyes met. We both did a 180 and quickly walked away, me in the wrong direction. We started dating in HS and we admitted to each other that experience fueled many nightly masturbation sessions. I'm not a big hugger. Avoid it whenever I can. Only ever hug my girlfriend. A female acquaintance gave me a surprise hug and now in the middle of a hug and not wanting to stand there like a bored, I let muscle memory kick in to finish the hug and I kind of automatically grabbed her ass. Awkward is an understatement. I was standing in a crowded bus holding onto one of the overhead handles and there was a woman trying to make her way to the back. As she was inching past me, the bus driver braked suddenly for some reason, which caused me to thrust my crotch against her ass. I was wearing basketball shorts, so there wasn't much between her and my garbage. She was noticeably taken aback.